Thanks for joining us, everyone. Our conversation today borders around security in Nigeria following the charge given by Mr. President to the service chiefs to ramp up, their security efforts in order to be able to help his administration's effort in building the economy. My guests are the former Director, Army Public Relations, Strategic Communications Expert, Brigadier General Sani Usman, retired, live for us in our Abuja studio, and Dr. Kabir Adamu, MD, Beacon Consulting Limited. Gentlemen, thank you so much for staying the course of the program. Brigadier General, I don't know if you've been seeing videos online of some junior soldiers hauling abuses on the Lagos State Governor over the arrest of a colleague of theirs for riding against traffic. The Chief of Army Staff just recently mentioned that one of them has been apprehended. But what do you make of this development? A situation where soldiers vent their anger on social media, calling out elected officials with little or no regard.
I've seen such videos, and quite a number of people have approached me, and particularly very senior retired officers, including serving one. And my answer to them is that two wrongs do not make a right. It was quite unfortunate, the incidents that involve the alleged soldier and, of course, the Lagos State government, governor, and, of course, what follows after the two videos. One, thankfully, the Chief of Army Staff, while on tour of 82 Division yesterday, alluded to the fact that, which we all know, that no soldier, regardless of the provocation, that will exchange or utter such kind of derogatory words to constituted authority. And by constituted authority, the governor represents constituted authority. In fact, even if it is among private soldiers themselves, there is always a seniority. And that is why in the military you don't hear plural for, the prefix sir. Usually, even if there are 100 or million of them, usually the most junior, when he is greeted, he will either say good morning, sir, good afternoon, sir, or good evening, sir, not sirs. That means there is always respect for authority and leadership. So it was unmilitary for anybody to have done what he did by first disobeying traffic rules by taking one way, even if he's a passenger, then secondly coming out to vent his anger. But I think in respect of the other video, you should know that definitely, certainly, it was not a serving or retired military personnel, because a lot of things, first the weddings, the continence, and of course the dressing. No matter, even if you left the military 100 years ago, definitely you know how to dress better, and you know the current uniform that you should wear, and so on and so forth. And that is where the problem lies. People take undue advantage of the security situation in this country to do a lot of things. And that is why I have had instances where the police were even warning the skip makers, getting military accoutrements and police to commit a lot of things, sarcastic way of, expressing certain things. By and large, it is unacceptable for any soldier to denigrate constituted authority, and it's a military, and it goes contrary. And I've seen, even if you look at some of the legal framework, particularly the Armed Forces Act, particularly Section 50, is quite explicit about the conduct. It is not even physically, even verbally, even, so many things. And I'm so happy that the person involved has been apprehended. And I think it's the thing is that is issue of command responsibility. I don't know what is happening. In those days, each platoon commander has, a fair idea about his soldiers. Take, for instance, a platoon commander has a platoon commander notebook. He can tell you offhand where his soldiers come from, their educational qualifications, their religions. So if any one of them commit any offense, he knows that such person is capable of doing that or not. And by and large, of course, there are internal mechanisms that you monitor the conduct of the soldiers, that they hardly go to anywhere, without the consent of the authority. And that is why you have this award procedure, absent without leave. And more so, now that whoever you are as an officer, take for instance, you cannot go beyond 50 square kilometers out of your station without the express permission of the authority. So these are some of the value systems that actually we need to re-emphasize, continuous education of these soldiers and officers, so that they will understand they have grievous responsibility bestowed upon them by the virtue of the fact that they have elected to serve in that capacity. So they are not just ordinary people. And of course, again, those in a position of authority, respect is reciprocal. If there are issues, just like so many other people said, you don't even fight along the street. All you have to do is a phone call or a directive, you know, so you don't exchange words. We are so happy and lucky that it has not extended to physical, you know, exchanges beyond what happened. So I think there is also a call on the part of those in a position of authority. If they see or they hear such things, they should report to the appropriate quarters. And also, for instance, the Nigerian Army has this toll-free call center, that 193, wherever it is. All you have to do is to make a phone call. That is, even if you don't have access to the Chief of Army Staff or the Provost Marshal or the Chief of Military Intelligence or any one of their equivalents in the services, or even the police. You know, the police have quite a number of such things. So basically, those in the position of authority also, they need to understand that there is also grievous responsibility in terms of their public conduct, so much as those in security agencies too. They should understand they are professional, and the act of discipline is not part of their doctrine.
Right. Dr. Adamu, let me hear your thoughts on this, because when you watch these videos and then you see videos where some soldiers, you know, harass civilians, particularly when you wear the camouflage and they ask you to put them off and flog you in public, you begin to wonder if they are trained to think they are above civilians. Because how do you protect a person you have no regard for?
Exactly. And this is the crux of the matter. Security sector governance and security sector reform. We unfortunately had a very long spell of military rule. And during that period, I think the military assumed certain responsibilities that unfortunately we are still living with the consequences at the moment. So there is a need to pursue security sector reform and to pursue security sector governance. Because of the remit of this discussion, I can't go into the details of what these two things mean. But in essence, a good and efficient security sector reform and security sector governance reform and program would allow the military to see itself as quote unquote subservient to civilian administration and governance. At the moment, the National Assembly, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, during the 9th Assembly, I was a special advisor to the Senate President on intelligence and security. And I know that our parliament at the moment is not too comfortable in citing the security sector, in particular the military. There are still very deep concerns, and that's not good for our democracy. We should reach a stage where the civilian administration, the government, both in the executive arm and in the legislative arm, should have full and absolute confidence and control over their ability to supervise both the elements of the military. And that's one element of my response. The other element are issues that are institutional. Grievances should be collected and they should be addressed. Now, whether those grievances are real or they are perceived, if you listen to the complaints or the outburst on the social media by these renegade military persons, whether they are real or fake, like Brigadier General mentioned, I think the military should look inwards and ask itself, what are the avenues that it has provided for addressing grievances? Because when you don't provide internal avenues for addressing grievances, the consequence of that is that those grievances will become public, sadly. So that's number one. I think there's a need for an improvement in that area. I know because of the very institutionalized nature of the military, it's sometimes difficult for subordinates to complain about their superiors. But if we're going to reduce and prevent it, then we have to provide the platform. Now, the third component of this is the need, for instance, to ensure appropriate discipline is meted out to these individuals. Now, if the serving military officer has been arrested, what of the one who, like the general is claiming, is not a real military personnel? He probably just donned uniforms and then decided to do what he did. Now, if the capacity and capability that we have in the cyberspace is effective, we should have been able to identify who it is. That person should have been arrested, and that person should have been subjected to our criminal justice system.
Interesting, particularly when you consider that the military over the years have tried to, approach the civilian population. We've seen their outreach in the area of, medical, welfare for their host communities and things like that. They try to get the people on their side, but all of this isolated, experiences and situations seem to tell the people a different message, particularly when you have a confrontation with a soldier on the street. Some would say perhaps the issue is their engagement with the populace, which is not supposed to be their primary responsibility. We are told is the sovereignty of the nation. Do you think perhaps we are engaging them too much for domestic interventions?
No, definitely. We are engaging the military too much for internal security matters. I've been in circumstances where even governors, if you attempt to redeploy the military from their states, the next thing they're at the villa discussing with the president to say, please, we don't want that, allow the military to remain. I don't think there's any state in the country at the moment that does not have one or the other form of military operation going on. Mm-hmm. In the case of the Plateau, like the Brigadier General mentioned, we have Operation Safe Haven that has been ongoing for 14 years now. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is this. Earlier on, I spoke about security sector governance. It would be interesting really to ask anyone in the parliament whether he knows what the mandate of Operation Safe Haven. And then secondly, whether every year when they approve the budget for the military and there is a provision for Operation Safe Haven, whether they actually look into that, because it was meant to be a stopgap operation, and stopgap operation running for 14 years is not acceptable. So those are the elements of security sector reform and governance that I hope to see, where we can ask the military specific questions. If you are running an operation, how long is that operation going to last? What is the mandate of that operation? What KPIs you develop that will allow the civilian component to measure your performance in that regard.
Indeed, Dr. Damu, please permit me to jump in. Apologies. Gentlemen, let's just try to give this conversation some gender balance and get the corruption angle to it as well. We're joined on the show this morning to join this conversation very quickly. Ayomide Macaulay, who's an entrepreneur and investment manager. She joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot have been said about security before you came. We are spending perhaps the largest chunk of the 2024 budget on security at over 3 trillion naira. What are your concerns? What do you think has been the challenge as to having the money spent for the things they are earmarked for?
I'm a woman, and I'm a market woman essentially. Anything that the federal government needs to do to ensure that we have safety and security and our businesses and our children are able to thrive successfully in Nigeria, I think that they need to get it done. If they need to invest in technology, if they need to invest in research, they should go ahead and do what they need to do. I don't have any problem with the budget. If they need to double the budget, they should do what they need to do. But my people need to be sleeping and waking up in peace. We need to be able to go to the markets, go to the farms, conduct our businesses, enjoy our lives. It's very important that we start getting some form of normalcy. Nigerians are a peaceful people. We don't like stress. What we want to do is work hard, take care of our children, and enjoy our lives. So if they need to double their budget, if they need to invest in things, invest in more resources, I say go ahead. Just make sure that all Nigerians, top to bottom, are able to survive, do what they need to do, thrive, enjoy, and build wealth for ourselves and for our families.
Now, it is exactly the point that Nigerians are concerned about, how these funds have been disbursed. I'm sure you're following the Dr. Betta Edu case as to, when monies are earmarked for a thing and then they are sent to personal account. For instance, the memo that was leaked as to having such amount of money, which is supposed to benefit some Nigerians, being sent to the accountant overseeing that project. When you take that particular issue as a case study, do you think Nigerians are not being well educated enough, or it is the same situation, the same narrative of how corrupt officials are, siphoning our commonwealth?
I think that the Betta situation is very unfortunate because we have been clamoring for positions, young people. I think I'm 3 years older than her. We've been clamoring that, I think I'm younger at heart, so I can say I'm still young. I think that young people have been clamoring for positions in government, number one. And we women in particular, we've been very feisty into saying that we want these positions. What happened to Betta is a technicality issue. I understand where Nigerians are coming from, but it's a technical issue. It was a function of, did you follow the law or did you follow I'm sorry, my English. Did you follow the regulation that has been used in the past, right? And with Betta's situation, when you start to think about, she was trying to meet deadlines, youthful exuberance, she wanted to ensure that, look, subsidy is gone, prices of everything is going up, everybody's tired, everybody's hungry, everybody's under pressure. I think that she might have decided, okay, from outside looking in, she wanted to go with the regulation rather than go with the law. But the same regulation that we are castigating her on is the same regulation that has been used in the past. So I'm happy that this is happening. I think it's a lesson learned that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants you to follow the law. And not just Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from what I've seen on social media, it seems even the Nigerians, even though they are saying, yes, we're in a crisis mode, but please follow the law. If there is even a regulation that was there before, do not follow that. Take your time out, do what you need to do, and follow the law. The lesson has been learned. But I think that we women have not had enough space at the federal level for us not to make a mistake. These things happen, and I think we should handle that with baby gloves. I think it was a function of regulation. And if you look at the memo, the money wasn't sent to her. Furthermore, I think when I saw the memo was sent to the project accountant. So why are we? I don't know. I think that we should look at this thing carefully and not be too harsh in our judgment. We don't have a lot of young people, and we don't have a lot of young women, and we don't have that experience at the federal level. So definitely mistakes would be made. So now we are knowing that both Asiwaju and the Federal Republic of Nigeria and its citizens, they do not want us to go the short route, do not be in a hurry, follow due diligence, follow the law rather than follow regulation.
I mean, they were talking about one of the youngest ministers on this cabinet, woman for that matter. I mean, there are lots of gender issues raised here because the 3 people involved are all female. If you add the accountant general, maybe they will make 4. But a document was just released this morning by Tracker talking about how 10 billion naira was disbursed to personal accounts for issues of this type. Do you think this is something that can be proven? Just a simple question as, do you think that Dr. Betta Edu can return as minister with all of these efforts to explain perhaps, the legality of our decision or otherwise?
I think so. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and, of course, the entire system, they understand that young people are just learning the ropes. And let's be clear, I used to work in GTB. Before you start working, they put you on a 3-month training to tell you these are the regulations, these are the laws, this is everything. But when it's governance, you're thrown into the job immediately. You're learning on the job. It's not an excuse. But I think that when they see that money did not go to her, from what we are seeing, might never know, but that money didn't go to her. It followed the same process that had been followed in the past. Like, I think you mentioned Tracker. I think I saw that on social media last night before I slept. It is not something that hadn't been done before. And it's also the opportunity for the National Assembly to say, okay, moving forward, even though this was the norm before, we are saying no to it. You must go by the law and go through every single stipulation that we have laid down for you in the executive. So we hope that it's a chance for improvement, to be very honest. And I think that she'll be given a second chance. I think once they see that the money didn't go to her, she was actually just in a hurry to please Nigerians, to ensure that they got the aid and the humanitarian assistance that they needed on time. It was a function of youthful, from what I'm seeing, it was a function of youthful exuberance.
All right, let's get back to Brigadier General, particularly when you consider the amount of money we have budgeted for security over the years, taking a large chunk even this year. Are you convinced that we are getting value for money? If you can answer that in just a minute, sir.
Well, getting the value for money in as far as the security agencies are concerned, yes. However, the issue of security is a collective responsibility, and I think we are getting it wrong. We have been hammering about, non-involvement of other components of Nigerian society. So the priority is wrong. First and foremost, I told you, the security challenges are predicated on three things: the political, the social, and the economic. To what extent have you integrated these three to the well-being of Nigerians so that they will not be involved in criminality? And of course, security agencies are up and doing to deal with the criminalities of the 21st century, particularly our policing system. So invariably, yes, but the long and short of it is that I think we have to focus more on being proactive than being reactive, because by establishment, all the security agencies are reactive. That means the government ought to be the proactive, in the sense that giving Nigerians a sense of belongings. Everybody knows there is hunger outside there. What are you doing about it? And it has corresponding effect on the security challenges in the country. So these are some of the issues that you should address. So beyond that, again, I think I have to talk about the security sector Dr. Kabir was talking about. I think we instead of building on what we have had, I know that the armed forces went through the transformation program for 15 years, from 2000 to 2015. It involved attitudinal change and what have you. But you cannot transform in isolation with the Nigerian society. And to what extent have we followed through, including, tangling with the doctrine of the security agencies, not just, the armed forces and the other components of Nigerian society. These are the issues that we should be addressing, not just, the physical aspect of it, budgeting for kinetic issues, when we know the security challenges are very dynamic and we need.
I'm afraid that's our time. Brigadier General, with you, we always didn't have enough time to explore these issues. It's why we keep bringing you back again. Brigadier General Sani Usman, Strategic Communications Expert, former Director, Army Public Relations. Thank you so much for your thought on the program. Dr. Kabir Adamu is Managing Director, Beacon Consulting Limited. Dr. Adamu, thank you so much also for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this morning. Just before we go, Ayomide, there's a lot of backlash against the suspended minister. You talked about how young she is, how she's a woman. Where is this coming from? If she's that efficient, and excellent, one would think that she will be getting more than enough support. Or you think it's just the corruption narrative that's been endemic for many years in this part of the world?
I think you've said it. It's the corruption endemic that has been the narrative, and everybody, there's a level of distrust between the people and people in governance. So, of course, Nigerians are thinking to themselves that it is business as usual and she has done something wrong and she has been corrupt. But I think that once the investigations are done, we will see that, it was just a technicality issue, to be very honest. And I'm hoping that, they can be kind to us women in government. It's not easy. To be very honest, it's not easy. Justice for all of us women. We don't
I thought that the conversation has always been equality. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Should we bring the feminine? Should there be any special favor?
I'm sorry, I'm on live TV, but am I going? Look. It's not. We barely have 35% on this matter. Okay, so the little 35 that we have, I'm hoping that they can see this as a training platform. Let's not forget that both APC, PDP, and LP and QQQ, everybody has men that they have trained and they have given second chances to. It will be good for us women to also get the platform to learn, make the mistakes, understand what the mistakes are, and learn from it without necessarily, writing us off. Let's not throw the baby with the bathwater. I mean, it makes us concerned as women that, if I join politics, am I at risk of eating government beans one day? If I make a mistake and not dot the I or cross my T's, it does scare us that we're not given the chance to, defend ourselves. So we want to see how the government plays it out, and hopefully she survives it and learns her lesson moving forward. But we'll see how it goes.
Macaulay, entrepreneur and investment manager, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's our show, everyone. Thanks for being a part of it. The conversation continues on X, formerly Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag this morning and tag me at Nifemi Okuntoye. See you again tomorrow.